Most women now assume proper hair care arrived recently through a bottle on a shelf that costs $40. What most never get told is that the best of those tricks, the ones that still work, were already on the bathroom shelves of Australian homes in the 1950s. Your mum knew them. Your nan knew them. They cost almost nothing. They sat between the vinegar and the eggs. And they worked. And the reason they worked, every one of them, is something the scalp does on its own that we have spent 50 years interfering with. Number one is not a product. It is a philosophy, and it is the one most women never get told. I'll take you through 15 of them, what each one did, and why a chemist today, cornered honestly, would tell you the women of 1955 were getting it right. Before we begin, do hit subscribe. This channel exists to bring these things back. Right then, love, let's go. Number 15. Half a bottle of flat beer kept in the laundry for hair washing day. In nearly every Australian kitchen of the mid-1950s, there was a bottle of beer that had gone flat overnight, and rather than tip it down the drain, your nan poured it over her hair after the wash. The barley and wheat in beer have already broken down into small proteins, and those proteins settle onto the hair like a thin coat, filling the little nicks in the cuticle and catching the light. The slight tartness of flat beer also closes the cuticle flat against the shaft, which is what gives hair its shine.
Flat beer poured slowly over freshly washed hair, worked through to the ends, left for 5 minutes, rinsed off with cool water. The smell, in case you are wondering, is gone the moment the hair dries. Every expensive volumizing conditioner sold today is, in plain language, trying to do what a flat bottle of beer was already doing in 1955. Number 14 is what your nan reached for when her hair had gone dry and brittle. An egg, specifically the yolk. She cracked the egg, separated out the yolk into a little dish, beat it slightly with a fork, and worked it through her hair before washing. The yolk specifically, never the white on its own. That detail mattered then, and it matters now. An egg yolk contains the very same kinds of fats that your scalp produces by itself when it is healthy. The proteins in the yolk settle on the shaft like a coat. The fats soak into the porous spots and smooth them down. And the one warning every Australian mother passed on with this trick was the same. Cold water only, never warm, because warm water cooks the egg in your hair. It was a simple thing. She did it once a fortnight when she felt the ends going dry, and it cost her 1 egg. Number 13. A cold rinse, ice cold, at the very end of the wash. This was the last thing she did before stepping out of the bath, and she did it with her teeth clenched. A 30-second blast of the coldest water the tap could give. The reason is plain mechanics.
The hair cuticle is made up of tiny overlapping scales like roof tiles, and when those tiles lie flat, the hair looks smooth and shines. Cold water makes the scales contract and lie down flat. It also closes the small blood vessels of the scalp for a few hours, which slows down how quickly the scalp starts producing oil again after a wash. Every old-school Australian hairdresser knew this and finished a wash with cold water without ever explaining it to the customer. It was simply what you did. Number 12 is the habit that does the most work and asks the least of you, and it is the one that has been quietly undone by 50 years of advertising. In 1955, the average Australian woman washed her hair once a week. By 1980, 3 times. By now, many women wash it every day, and the scalp, which is a sensible thing, simply learns. If you strip the oil off it daily, it learns to make more oil daily. If you leave it alone, it learns to make exactly as much as the hair needs and no more. Your nan was not lazy and she was not unhygienic. Her scalp had settled into a rhythm where the oil it made was the oil her hair was using. A clean Sunday hair wash, a brush every morning, a set with rags on Saturday night, and the scalp ran itself. Women now who go back to a weekly wash describe the first fortnight as awful and the 4th week as the moment their hair started behaving in a way it never had on the daily wash routine. Number 11. Olive oil, warmed in a saucer, worked into the hair root to tip, wrapped in a towel, and left for an hour. This was a Mediterranean trick that traveled to Australia in the suitcases of post-war migrant women in the late 1940s and 50s, and it spread through Carlton and Leichhardt and Fitzroy backfence by backfence within a few years. Your nan watched her Italian neighbor do it and quietly tried it herself the following week. The main fat in olive oil, oleic acid, is slim enough to slip into the hair shaft itself rather than sit on top. It cuts down the protein loss that happens during washing, which is the main reason hair gets damaged in the first place. A study in the Journal of Cosmetic Science in 2003 confirmed exactly what Italian-Australian women had been doing in their bathrooms 45 years earlier. Number 10. a diluted apple cider vinegar rinse, and this is the one that ties every other trick on this list together. Here is the thing your Nan understood without needing the science. The scalp has its own quiet protective layer on the surface, slightly sour to the touch, and that layer keeps the hair smooth and the scalp settled. The shampoos of the 1950s, the soap-based ones especially, were the opposite of sour. They were alkaline, and an alkaline wash strips that layer off. So after she washed, she poured a small jug of cider vinegar mixed with water over her hair, worked it through, and rinsed it out.
What she was actually doing was putting the scalp's own surface back to where it wanted to be. The vinegar smell is gone the moment the hair dries. 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar in a cup of water, as effective today as it was 70 years ago. If you are starting to recognize your mum or your Nan in any of this, tell me in the comments below which one of these she swore by. The next trick is the one most people never expect. Number 9. Half a lemon, squeezed into a bottle of water and kept in the kitchen for women with lighter hair. The juice of half a lemon did 2 quite different things at once, and that is why it lasted in Australian bathrooms for decades. The first thing the lemon does is the same as the vinegar in number 10. The little bit of citric acid in it closes the cuticle and settles the scalp back into its proper range. That is the shine. The second thing the lemon does, but only when she sat out in the back garden afterwards with the sun on her, was lift the colour ever so slightly. Australian sun is strong, lemon plus sun, and you have what every fair-haired woman of the era used as a free trip to the hairdresser. For shine without lift, she used the lemon in the bath, away from the sun, and the result was the same as a vinegar rinse with a far nicer smell. Number 8 is what she did once a month when her hair really needed a deep treat: mayonnaise.
Plain homemade, if she had time, or a jar of Kraft if she did not, slathered onto dry hair from root to ends, wrapped in a tea towel, and left for half an hour. And the reason it worked, when you stop to look at what is in it, is that every single component is doing a job. The egg yolk in the mayo is the protein code from number 14. The oil is the deep conditioning from number 11. And the vinegar is the acid rinse from number 10. All 3 in one tea towel on a Saturday afternoon. Women shared this the way women shared a sponge cake recipe, written on a card in pencil, tucked into a drawer beside the recipe for lamingtons. It travelled from the Country Women's Association morning teas in Bendigo to the back fences of Wollongong without ever appearing in print. Here is something the soap companies have been quietly content for us to forget. The hair products sold most heavily to Australian women through the 1950s, 60s and 70s were not first and foremost designed for what hair actually needed. They were designed to give the fastest visible short-term improvement and to make sure she came back to the shelf within the week to buy the next bottle. A shampoo that stripped the scalp so thoroughly that it produced extra oil within 24 hours was not a failure of the product. It was, from the maker's point of view, a triumph. The women of the 1950s who never went down that road were not behind. They were ahead. Number 7. A Boar bristle brush kept on the dressing table, used every single morning. Unlike the plastic and the nylon brushes that came in the 60s, which build static and rough up the cuticle, Boar bristle is slightly porous and slightly acid itself, and it picks up the natural oil from the scalp and carries it down the hair shaft toward the ends. Your Nan, brushing her hair 50 strokes every morning before pinning it up, was doing what no shop-bought conditioner can quite do from the outside. She was using her own oil, the oil her scalp had made for exactly this purpose, and walking it down to where it was needed most. Modern trichologists will tell you 20 to 30 strokes is plenty and 100 is too many. The principle, though, is the same. It was sound in 1955, and it is still sound now. Number 6 is what she did with the shampoo itself, and almost nobody does this anymore. She watered it down. A teaspoon of shampoo in a small jug, 4 teaspoons of water on top, stirred together and poured slowly over the scalp. It cleaned the hair perfectly well, and it stripped a great deal less of the oil and the protective layer the scalp had been working all week to build. The shampoos of the 1950s were strong, made for the dirty work of post-war life, and your Nan was not naive about it. She used less, mixed with more water, and got the same clean head of hair without paying for it the day after.
The habit was lost when the pump bottle arrived and the advertising began to suggest that more lather meant more cleaning. It does not. More lather means more stripping. Those are 2 quite different things. Number 5. Chamomile tea, brewed in a teapot, cooled in a jug, and poured over the head as a final rinse for fair hair. Chamomile contains a soft little compound that, used week after week, gently brightens light hair the way the sun does, only more slowly and without any harshness. Your Nan brewed a strong pot, let it cool to lukewarm, poured it over her freshly washed hair and left it on without rinsing. Used once a week for 3 or 4 months, the result was a warm, sun-touched blonde that today's hairdresser would charge you a packet to imitate with chemicals. The Australian Women's Weekly ran a tea rinse recipe more than once in the 1950s, and the women who read it then have hair photographs that still hold up. Number 4. 5 minutes of slow scalp massage before she stepped into the bath. Not with the nails, never with the nails, but with the soft pads of the fingertips, moving in small circles from the hairline back toward the crown. What she was doing, without putting words to it, was waking up the blood supply to every hair follicle on her head and persuading the little oil glands to do their job evenly rather than letting the oil build up in one spot. It is one of the very oldest beauty habits there is, and it costs nothing.
5 minutes every Sunday, before the wash. A Japanese study in 2016 found that 4 minutes of scalp massage a day over 6 months produced a measurable thickening of the hair. Your Nan was 40 years ahead of that paper. Here is the second thing the soap companies do not want talked about. The surface of a healthy scalp is by nature slightly sour. Not bitter, not unpleasant, just very faintly acid. That surface is made of the scalp's own oil, the salts in your sweat, and a quiet community of friendly bacteria. And together, those three keep the scalp settled, the cuticle closed, and the hair shining. A shampoo that is alkaline strips all three off in one go. A vinegar rinse, a lemon rinse, a chamomile rinse. Every trick on this list is in one way or another putting that sour surface back where it ought to be. Your Nan never used the words acid mantle. She did not need to. She could see in the mirror the difference between hair that had it and hair that did not. Now, 3 tricks left, and number 1 is the one almost nobody guesses, so do stay with me. And if any of this is bringing your mom or your Nan back to you, the subscribe button is right there. It is free, and it keeps these stories coming. Number 3, the Saturday night rag set and the soft waves it gave her by Sunday morning.
Hair washed in the late afternoon, left a little damp, then separated into sections and rolled around strips of cotton sheeting torn from an old pillowcase, tied off at the ends, and slept on overnight. By Sunday morning, the rags came out and the hair fell into soft, round waves that held all the way through church, lunch, and tea. No heat, no curling iron, no damage at all, because nothing was being burnt or pulled. The waves were the hair drying into the shape it had been put in. Women who set their hair this way every Saturday night through the 1950s had hair that simply did not break the way hair began to break once electric rollers arrived in the 60s. Number 2, the satin pillowcase, and if she could not afford satin, an old silk slip cut and sewn into a cover for her good pillow. Cotton pillowcases drag against the hair all night, rough up the cuticle, and soak up any oil or treatment she had taken the trouble to put in before bed. Satin and silk do none of those things. The surface is slippery, the friction drops to almost nothing, and anything she had put in her hair before sleep is still in it in the morning. Women who could not buy satin in 1955 went down to the haberdashery in Pitt Street or Burke Street, picked up a yard of it, and ran it through the sewing machine themselves on a Sunday afternoon. It works exactly as well today as it did then. Number 1, leaving your scalp alone.
The most important trick on this list is not a product, not a recipe, and not a step. It is a philosophy, and your Nan was right about it. The scalp has been quietly running itself for as long as there have been women, and it knows exactly how much oil to make, when to make it, and how to keep the surface sour enough to keep everything else where it belongs. The only way it ever goes wrong is when we interfere with it. Strip it every day with strong shampoo, and it will make more oil to defend itself. Leave it alone, support it gently with the occasional vinegar rinse and the occasional egg yolk, and it will settle right back into making exactly as much oil as your hair actually needs. The women of the 1950s in Adelaide, Perth, Toowoomba, Geelong, who washed once a week and let their scalp do its work, were not behind the times. They were ahead of every chemist on every high street that exists today. They simply did not know it. Try one this week. The vinegar rinse if you want something that takes 30 seconds. The egg yolk if you want to see what your hair feels like with real protein in it for the first time. The cold rinse if you want the smallest possible change. Then come to the comments and tell me which one you tried and what your Nan would have said about it. These are not old tricks. They are the right ones.